Hello, everyone. I'd like to speak about a specific aspect of the Parashat Tezaveh, which is about the use of wool and linen together. In the Parsha, we talk about how the high priest is a phod, special garment, was made of gold, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, which are wool, and a fine twisted linen, which is obviously linen, worked into a design, a very fashionable design. And here we have the high priest. And in fact, if you look carefully, we'll see the other priest, and the whole tabernacle also has wool and linen designed together. However, when you go to the book of Dvarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 22, verse 11, it says explicitly that you should not wear cloth combining wool and linen. Lo tovash shatnez, semer upishtim yachtav. There's a prohibition to wear any clothes that has wool and linen together. In fact, here you see a sign of a store that advertises, we check, it's a laboratory for checking shatnez. Laboratory that checks, you can bring your clothes there, and they'll say, but make sure there's no wool and linen together. Today, many clothes don't have wool and linen together. Usually it's things that are from third world countries, and you have to worry about this list as well. You could see which clothes you have to check. But sometimes men have to check some suits, and there might be certain kind of dresses women should have to check. But usually it's not a problem today. But it's as a practical problem. But it still is a prohibition. And here is the question: how, if it's a prohibition, you cannot wear cloth combining wool and linen together, then why does the high priest in his garment wear wool and linen together? To suggest an answer, I want to go to the story of Cain and Abel, where we see this tension between Abel, who is a keeper of sheep. Sheep, obviously, we know, produce wool, and Cain, who became a tiller of the soil, a produce that, among other things, produces linen. And there's a tension between the two. The tension starts already here. The tension continues when Cain's offering was not accepted. And the tension concludes in the field. And it says, while they were in the field, Cain set upon his brother Abel and killed him. Hashem said to Cain, where's your brother Abel? And he says, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? Now, the field has specific purposes. For a shepherd, a field is a place to let your sheep flock, to let them graze. For a farmer, grazing would be the worst thing in a field. You want your crops to grow. And here we see the tension is even greater between the shepherd and the farmer. Cain did not know how to deal with the tension, and how he dealt with it was killing his brother Abel. And when Hashem asked him about this, he says, am I my brother's keeper? I have to think about my own needs. I am a farmer. I'm a farmer. I can't have the sheep in my yard, my field. I am a farmer. I have to think about my own needs. Again, it could be that Cain was not ready for this tension, just like he was surprised about the offering wasn't being accepted. Here too, the tension was a surprise for him, and he ended up by reverting to murder. The Torah says something else. The Torah says not only farmers and shepherds are different, but everyone has differences. Every time between people, there'll always be tension. Some like the radio on, in the background, and some like quiet. Some like are cleaning the kitchen, and wants the kitchen spotless, and some are cooking and cooking lots of different things at the same time, and they can't be a spotless kitchen. Some like the air conditioning on, some like it off. There's no ends of tension between people. The Torah therefore says another solution, not Cain's solution, but to think about only yourself, even to the last resort of killing. But the Torah says you should not take vengeance or bear a grudge against members of your people. Love your fellow as yourself. I am Hashem. And therefore the Torah, after it says this in Leviticus 19, the next verse says, you should observe my laws. You should not let your cattle mate with a different kind. You should not sow your field with two kinds of seed. You should not put on cloth from a mixture of two kinds of material. Don't think the Torah is saying that you could overcome all the differences, that you, nothing bothers me. We're all the same. We all could live in harmony. There'll never be any friction. No, don't wear a cloth of two different materials to say, oh, we're farmers and shepherds living in harmony. No, there will be tension between you. But the answer is not to ignore the tension. The answer is not to, obviously, is not to increase the tension. It's to honor and respect their differences. And know there'll be differences. And know that people will sometimes get on your nerves. And know people will sometimes do something to you that you felt was not right. But at the end of the day, the Torah says the better solution for this, the only solution, the true solution, is to love your fellow as yourself and to treat him the way you would want him to treat you. And therefore, the Torah says in our Parsha that the high priest who's in the tabernacle of God, who is returned to the Gan Eden, he returned to the Garden of Eden, because that's what the tabernacle is. It's the story before Cain and Abel. It's the chapter before that they were born. It's before the exile from that place. How do we return to that place where there's no tension between people, where Adam and Eve live together in harmony? The Torah says the high priest was able to get back to that because he's in the tabernacle of God. He's where the Aron Habrit, where the ark, where God's words are there. And that someone who keeps the Torah is able, not intrinsically, is able to live together, loving your fellow neighbor as yourself. Not something internally that will overcome all differences, but using the Torah, we're able to live together in peace, like in Gan Eden. Thank you very much, and Shabbat Shalom.